Alright, today I'm installing a SMB intake for my 2.7 Bronco. First thing, before I started recording, was remove this clip. Go to pop out your IAT sensor harness right here. Pop out this Christmas tree clip. I'm going to do this one right here too, so I'll do that. Alright, that one's out. So this should all be loose. Next up, you want to take a 7mm and loosen that hose clamp. Once you got that loosened, you want to pop this off. Be careful if you're dusty like me. You want to try to be really careful not to get dust all in there. So it might take a little bit of work to get this off carefully. So now that we got that off, I realize we're swapping all of that out, so it doesn't really matter if you get dirt in it. So do whatever you got to do. Next, we'll go to another hose clamp right there, and we'll loosen that. You'll need another 7mm socket, and same thing, pop that off. So next up, you need an 8mm socket, and removing this bolt right there on the back of the airbox. The instructions said it was a 10, mine was an 8, so I'm not sure if you might have either or. I already loosened it. So now that that's done, you should be able to just remove the whole airbox with the filter still inside it. You want to keep that bolt because we're going to reuse that later. So you should be able to kind of work this thing out. So once you get that out, you can set this aside. Don't need it. Here's what it should look like. I don't have fender liners in. Quick thing to note is make sure these grommets stay in here and don't get pulled out with the airbox. Mine were good, so I have Mishimoto charge pipes, so mine looks a little different. We have 4 8mm screws that you're gonna pull out. There's one here, one up here that I already removed, one down there, and then one up here. For stock, they're 8mm. These Mishimoto ones are 10mm. And then set them aside because we're gonna reuse them. All right, next step, if you have stock pipes, you have a different connector right there. So you're gonna undo that. It's just a little clip. You're gonna come over here, and you would undo the one that's right here. And what we're gonna do is we're basically trying to lift this up a little bit so that we can get the intake pipe out. Next step, what you're gonna do is you're gonna remove this from the factory air pipe. Mine's already removed and capped, so I don't need to do that. So I was able to just undo that one, and hopefully I can bend it enough to get the intake pipe out. Next, we're gonna loosen this hose clamp right here. It's a 7mm, and then you're gonna pop it off. So you kinda have to work this one to get it off because this pipe is in the way, unless you remove this whole thing. But it's not the easiest to wiggle off. What I decided to do was take some Chipotle napkins and cover up the hose right there to prevent any dust that gets knocked off from falling in there. Went ahead and did the same thing over here for this turbo hose because you don't want dirt and stuff getting in there. See, I already got a little bit, so I'll have to clean that out. but that stuff is bad for your turbos, so don't let it happen. Alright, so once you get that one removed, just set it off to the side, and let's see what the next step is. So next, instructions say there's a bracket to install right here. It'll be in this bag with all the hose clamps and everything. The bracket you're looking for is this simple L bracket. It's got 2 holes that are in line and then a big hole at the bottom. You can put that on just like that with the supply bolts. Alright, now that that's installed, you're gonna come over here to your air box. And you want this bushing right here. Might need a tool to pop it out, but you're gonna put that in that big hole in the other bracket. Alright, so now that that's in, you want to make sure you match the same orientation it was in. So on this side of the air box, basically facing the engine, you want this side, and against the quarter panel, you want that side, just like factory. Next, you want to grab your duct and put this on, and you'll grab the supplied pins that go in there out of that bag. So these are kind of cool if you haven't used them before. Basically, take one end, put it on the top, take the other end, rotate it 90 degrees, and put it on the bottom, and they lock in with each other through these arms. Next up is this plug piece. Once you get those little clips on, they recommend leaving this off for more performance. However, if you're in a really hot area, they recommend putting it on. I live in Arizona. It gets really hot here, so I'm gonna put that on. I also don't run fender liners, so I don't want dust and rocks to go up here and get shot into the filter and possibly damage it. And once you do that, you can come over here and work your way in and install the air box. So once you get it in there, make sure those prongs at the bottom are lined up, and you want to get a good push down, make sure they're fully seated. You can see it's kind of catching on it. It's not really going anywhere, so you're good. Next up, that bolt we removed earlier, we're going to put that back in. It's an 8mm or a 10mm. So once you get the bolt in, you can take that push clip from earlier, just pop it back in. Easy. So they say the next step is to obviously take the wrap off this and kind of install it where it's at right now. I'm going to install the rest of it because the filter plugs into the pipe that goes in here, not to the actual air box. So I'm going to leave this cover on just to keep dust and anything from getting inside, and then that'll be probably one of the last things I do. Alright, so you grab your intake pipe, and then in this bag right here you have a gasket and the adapter for the bypass tube and 2 screws, and you're installing that right there. Alright, so once you get that installed, this spot, and this spot, you need to go to your factory box, and you need to find the brackets that resemble each of these. They're supplied by S&B. So there's a bracket that's kind of this L shape and has the clip. There's one that's just kind of this basic round, and then there's one that is like a podium kind of shape. And you need to make sure you line it up accordingly. So basically, the one that looks like this goes right there. This one that's just kind of an L with this little mushroom shape on the end goes right there, maybe this way. And then this next one you want right there. just like that. So this is how I have mine set up. You want this piece that comes in to be facing the pipe. And then these are all 10 millimeters, so you'll crank these down. They're just hand tight right now. Looks pretty close, pretty accurate. So next what you need to do is you need to remove all these little brackets, these little clip grommet things or whatever. And you can use a flathead screwdriver to get those out, and then you need to transfer them over to these new brackets that you just put on. Alright, so once you get that all done, don't worry about this one. You didn't need to transfer that one. So just the two kind of square ones. And then once you're done with that, you take this, slide into that coupler we disconnected. Right there by the battery, you can see I've got napkins in there to block it off. So remove it if you covered it, and then kind of finagle it in there. Alright, so once you get the tube in there, it's all in there, then you're going to tighten the hose clamp. You may have to go back and kind of adjust these brackets by loosening the screws, and you can kind of tilt them. Obviously mine is not situated in there perfectly yet, but you want to make sure that all your things line up right there. 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Well, that's alright, so I got that all lined up. It's kind of a pain in the butt with these aftermarket charge pipes, but it is what it is. Just had to readjust some brackets, and you know, it's kind of hard to reach these places, but it's all good. So next up, you're going to grab this little grommet right here, and you're going to install it into this kind of Y tube, and make sure the orientation matches with that little notch right there. Next up, you install the coupler, put the hose clamps on, don't tighten them, and easy as that. Just slides over the big fat end, kind of an oval shape. So next up, we're going to take this, we're going to install it here. This small end is going to go into that turbo inlet, and the fat end is going to connect to your intake tube, and your filter will connect to your so if you covered it, again, take it out. You're going to reuse the same clamp right there, and then we're almost done. Alright, when you got that done, you're going to just tighten the clamps. These are an 8 millimeter. Don't go too tight because these can break. Just tighten up to be secure. It's pretty tight. Same thing back here. That one's a 7. You're going to tighten that clamp once you get that fully seated. Alright, once you got that all done, you're going to take your filter. You got a hose clamp right there. It's going to go on here, and it's going to go on here, and you're going to clamp it down around this little ridge. Alright, so my camera died, but here's what we did. Once you get that hose clamp on, make sure it's clamped good around this. You also, this is kind of a grommet that goes around the airbox. Make sure that's fully seated. Next, you take the plastic cover. There's a covering on it, and you remove the covering. You put this kind of gasket, I guess, around it, and then you can put it in here. Next up, you have to take your IAT sensor out of your stock earbox. It's right there, and how you do that is you just twist it and then you can pull it out. Same thing here, you put it in, you twist it, and then S&B supplied a harness that attaches this end there and this end right here, and then when you're done with that, you take your clips, you plug the ribbed kind of Christmas tree clip into the threaded fitting there. Zip tie this. Zip tie all this out of the way like I did, so it's away from fans or any hot parts. And then once you do that, you're done. Also make sure you connect this to the adapter, and you're done. I got a filter sock on mine, which is something you can get from S&B. It just helps kind of pre-filter. It's super dusty here, so that's why I did that. But other than that, we're all good. Thanks for watching, guys.